Hello and welcome to the Arsenal Bite Size Podcast. I'm your host Clayton at Clates AFC on Twitter. It's the first international break of the season, bloody 3 weeks into the season. So as a result, I'm here with my co-host FPL Nima to do a little transfer window review. How we doing?
Yeah, good man. I can't believe it's already an international break. It's pretty annoying, but I guess at least we get to talk about how the transfer window ended and our thoughts. I know we've not really discussed it with each other, so I am keen to hear kind of how you felt it went. I do think it kind of escalated on deadline day. Had you asked me pre-deadline day, I don't know if I'd be giving a great score out of 10, if I'm honest.
Well, that's why I always hold my opinion until the end of the window because it's I saw so much I did a solo Sterling reaction video the other day and I touched a bit on my thoughts on deadline day, so I won't go into it again, but just I think the head loss, right? It's like it's literally just I know it's hard because we're fed so much information, so we're constantly reacting to what we hear and see, but I always try to reserve judgment until the window closed. And in the end, I was happy with it. So I've done solos on Calafiori, Merino, Sterling. So I thought with this one, we could maybe look at the window as a whole and even talk about some of the outgoings. Are you happy with where the squad is at? So I guess to start it, what's the best question? How would you rate it out of 10 as a window?
I think I'd say 7. Maybe if I was being really nice, like 7.5 out of 10.
Go on, what's your thinking behind those numbers?
So I think for me, it's the sales. If I was just looking at sales, I'd go as high as 8 out of 10. But I just think with incomings included, I'm really happy about the Sterling signing. I don't think it was a signing we would have gone for at the start of the window, but the opportunity arises and you shouldn't say no.
Do you see what Edu said about that as well? It was a bit too honest, I thought.
Normally they're not that honest, are they? Yeah, normally they
Yeah.
wouldn't say that.
I think I'm gonna paraphrase it slightly, but he basically said, to be honest, he wasn't who we intended to sign when the window opened, but when the opportunity presented itself, then they kind of went for it and they were happy with it. So yeah. But yeah, go on. Sorry, you were talking about your 7.5 and
Yeah, so I think for me, the reason there is like we've historically been shocking at sales, and I think our record sale was maybe Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain and Iwobi and those guys. Like we made a bit of money here and there, but it's just like people have spent years saying like, oh, they don't think certain players are good enough to take us to a challenge, and we've also argued about Arteta's lack of use of some of the subs, and we've thought it's because he doesn't trust them as much as the starters. So for me, from that perspective, I'd say it was a window where we didn't necessarily shatter the ceiling. We didn't raise our ceiling, maybe, but we hugely raised the floor, especially with the additional fixtures coming. So that's why I'm still giving it a good rating. Like, there wasn't the superstar signing of like a Declan Rice summer, which is why I can't give it more. Like, had there been like that exciting Nico Williams type signing, Victor Osimhen type signing, then yeah, I'd have been all over it. The good news I'm hearing that's coming out now, and I'm sure you've seen the tweets, is we're well in on the PSR front now on the sustainability side. And we have like the reserves to go for a massive signing either in January or next summer. So I think we've laid the groundwork. And one thing I will say, just to wrap up and get your thoughts, and I'm happy about this as well, is historically, if we didn't get our first target, there was major panic. And instead, we've gone and got like Neto on loan for a year. We've gone and got Sterling on loan for a year. And we've not gone and, given a free 4-year contract to like a random free agent like a Kolasinac, or we've not gone and panic bought someone just for the sake of it, which we have done many a year. So I'm just glad that despite not getting the primary target in some of those positions, like we didn't pay the 30 million for Juan Garcia's release clause. I'm just glad that we took some short-term, more pragmatic decisions this time that still raise the floor of this team for this season, but don't jeopardize the future and the signings we want longer term. I think that's the best way I can put it. Sorry, I'm just going on a bit.
no, not going on at all. It's really good thoughts. I'm very similar to you. And the Sterling one, I think is a good example. What I said on the individual solo pod I did about him was sure, he wasn't our first choice, but I think you have to react to the way the market is going. And I don't know about you, but I don't look at a single wide forward that moved in the market that I would have actually wanted on a long-term contract that could have moved the needle forward for us. So I think in the context of that, I think it's a very smart, astute signing individually on Sterling. Where I think it's no loan fee. Chelsea are basically covering half the wages, and he's essentially replaced Reece Nelson's place in the squad. And he's a four-time Premier League winner. He's made over 80 appearances in the Champions League. When he's in a good rhythm, like he's an absolute output machine. He's a fantastic 1v1 dribbler. I think it's such a smart signing. But it's interesting. I asked you the question about a number. I've not even got my own number, so I want to talk through my thoughts to try and arrive at a number, because I think when I assess the success of a window, I always think, what did I think we needed to do in the first place? And so for me, I did a solo pod in the summer where I should have listened to it prior to this. Actually, I can't remember what I said, but I think my feelings going into the summer was I was working on the assumption, this is rewinding to like the end of the season, June time. I thought we were going to sell Zinchenko and Partey. So I think I was working on the assumption of getting a defender in and like a top class midfielder. But obviously Zinchenko stayed, Partey stayed, and we've all got mixed opinions on him. But the fact is he's here to stay, and it looks like he'll contribute significant minutes. So with that in mind, I think we still, despite Zinchenko staying, despite Kivior staying, I still think we needed another defender, like someone that could come in and not necessarily play everywhere across the back four, but I think this is why I really like Calafiori. He can play left back, left centre back, and then you've got Timber, Tomiyasu, if he's ever fit again, that can play. I think those two can play everywhere: left back, left centre back, and right back. So I think for me, the signing of Calafiori is really like locked down that left hand side, even though he's not starting yet, future proofing it, as well as giving us versatile options elsewhere. I really love the Merino signing. One thing I do remember saying with clarity was I thought we needed like a hybrid 8-6. And I think we've got that in Merino. I think he's someone that he is like a natural left-sided 8. But I think you'll see in periods him and Rice will interchange and he'll sometimes be a 6. I think that's such a smart signing. And then I thought, I've been banging this drum, haven't I, all summer. I thought the attacking group was lacking like individual killer quality, someone that I reference these games all the time where I didn't think we looked like we had that individual player that could score for us. Last season, it was at the Allianz against Bayern Munich in the second half, Man City away, Villa away, Newcastle away, Anfield, Liverpool away. We did well to get a point, but like we were under the cosh for a while. And I think that's the level we're at now. We're looking at like a handful of games where someone can make a difference. And that's where I think Sterling, although he's not the world-class player I think he was once upon a time, but he's not that right now, I still think he's got attributes that will contribute to us where we've been lacking. So overall, when I look at what I thought we needed, obviously the goalkeeping units had a bit of a cleanse. Ramsdale, I think we sold quite well fee-wise. Vieira's gone out on loan. Smith Rowe we sold well. Nketiah we sold well. All people I think we thought would go anyway. I think the Vieira one was maybe a surprise, but I remember saying if you looked at Reece Nelson, Fabio Vieira, and Smith Rowe and the minutes they played, I would rather have got rid of them and got one player in that can. I think they all contributed maybe 500 to 700 minutes last season.
It was barely any. Yeah, it was barely any.
Exactly, and I'd rather have a Raheem Sterling come in combined with an Ethan Nwaneri who can maybe get 200 to 500 minutes this season, where even with Merino, it's such a smart signing in my opinion because of his age. He's 28. He can kind of guide and nurture Nwaneri's path into the first team. So overall, I think it's similar to you, 7.5, 8 out of 10 window. I think we sold well. I think within what was attainable and realistic, we got our targets and reacted very well. So
This is
I can't complain.
controversial, Clayton. I would
Go for it.
say that pre the Sterling loan, I would have gone a 6 out of 10. And post the Sterling loan, I'm willing to jump up to an 8 out of 10. So
I
I
I
am
I
very
agree.
hot on Sterling. Very hot on Sterling.
I agree, and it's more for me we needed a wide forward in my opinion, and like so I can't remember how vocal I was in any of our group chats on deadline day, but internally I'd be lying if I said I wasn't annoyed, thinking that we would be going without a wide forward because Reece Nelson, I think it looked like he was staying until we got Sterling in, and that wasn't enough. Like the attacking group of Martinelli, Trossard, Jesus, Havertz, Saka, and then Nelson, I think it was still lacking something. So what you said about like raising the floor rather than smashing through the ceilings, that's where I think I'm the same. Like getting Sterling took it from probably same as me, 6 Same as you, sorry, 6 to an 8.
So just talking on Raheem Sterling, because I did listen to the episode you did. Obviously, you did an episode on Sterling, you did one on Merino. So if anyone didn't catch those are well worth a watch, and they're kind of short form content. So I won't repeat anything you did say, but just to give my 2 cents on both those signings, because I know we've
Go
not
for
really
it.
had a chance to speak about them. So Merino, I love that signing. Obviously, I'm gutted he's out until after the second international break. It is what it is. There's some tough away games coming up after this international break. Would have been lovely to have him for those. But ultimately, I think he's going to be there just like Timber was through his injury last year, and be with the team, be in all the team meetings, learn the way we want him to play. I think that's why we've not seen Calafiori start as well. It's like it's all about making sure they understand the system and what the manager wants from them. Everyone who comes here, including Declan, everyone, they always say like they relearned football when they spoke to Mikel. Like they didn't even think about it in that way before. So I think there's still good quality time happening and learning and bonding with the team. It's a shame about the injury, but when we need him, he will be there, I hope. So he's one I'm looking forward to seeing. Just on him, I just think he's something special. I think he's, maybe this phrase has been thrown out there. I don't know who said it, but I think of Merino as a win now signing. It's like you're buying someone to win now and be that final piece of that jigsaw, but at the same time, you're not blocking the pathway to someone as promising as Ethan Nwaneri, Miles Lewis Skelly. Like there's still the opportunity for those guys as well to be mentored and learn. I think we've brought in people with winning experience. Like recently I saw Gabriel Maglish talking about like he doesn't know what he'll do when Jorginho leaves because it's
I
like his
saw that,
dad.
yeah.
And that's the kind of things that go unnoticed, like having serial winners like that in your club. We saw what happened when we, finished fifth, and then Jesus and Zinchenko showed up. They both won the Premier League 4 times each. And they were telling the other players, guys, like, we've got to try and win the title. And they were laughing at them back then. We just finished fifth. It was like ludicrous for the players to think that. That's how bad the mentality was. Like, yes, they were fantastic, youngest team in the league, but there was no winners there. And then you bring them in. Then you bring in Declan Rice, won the European trophy, one of the leaders of the England team. You bring in, these new guys, Merino. He's a Euros winner, right? Like, what can I say? Like, they've played at the highest level, these guys. And then you got again now Raheem Sterling. He's played in every high-profile game that this sport has, like whether it's international or club level. I think in the chat, Mike says Sterling's the 19th highest goal scorer in Premier League history.
Oh,
He's also,
wow.
yeah, he's up there, man.
He's been around for ages, hasn't he?
I saw a photo of him when he was playing with Mikel Arteta in the Arsenal jersey back in 2012, 2013. So, God, man, this guy's been around a long time. I wish we'd got him back then before he went to Liverpool.
Same.
Yeah, he was the guy. I really like Raheem. I think he's been unfairly attacked by the media in this country many a times. And I think he's a great role model for the young players. So someone like Martinelli as well. I think this will actually be something he can learn from. Like he can learn a lot from Raheem Sterling, in my opinion. Like he's going to be the backup minutes should we need to rest Saka. He might even become the starting left wing, which I think will happen sooner rather than later.
We've got I can't
Echo
pronounce that
was
name.
in Paris.
Yeah, that
Echo
was
was in Paris.
And he says, yeah, we actually have a left winger now. And I agree. I think Sterling will make that position his own this season. I really do. I don't know when. I don't think it will be instantaneous, but I think Sterling will make that left wing spot his own. Did you see the clip doing around on Twitter where some fan was watching like the inside training thing and kind of made a joke about Martinelli already having his head up because
just after 30 seconds, yeah.
Yeah.
Just watching his close ball control and his dribbling, to have that type of drilling off the left wing, I don't think teams can, do what they were doing before, which is they'd kind of just like leave Martinelli or Trossard and like everyone will pile onto Saka's side. If they do that, they risk someone like a Raheem just absolutely humiliating them. So having those options on both sides, oh my God, I'm so excited. And Havertz like orchestrating the ball to them both. Oh my God, like my lovely giraffe gazelle in the air.
There's a really good interview of Havertz with Rio Ferdinand actually on TNT Sport. I recommend everyone go check that out. But yeah, I think very similarly on Sterling. I think I don't know, he's almost, because I think he's been in such a toxic environment. I think he's always been a player, despite his output being good. I think he's always divided opinion. I don't know why. I don't know if it's like aesthetics or something, but I've always been. I think it's funny. Arteta talks about efficiency in the box. I don't think Sterling is the most efficient, but he's someone that can create danger and havoc. And like you said, I think Trossard and Martinelli are quite often left on their own on the left. We know what Martinelli can be capable of, but I don't think we're seeing it in a sustained period at the minute. I've got no doubt he will get back to the level we know he's capable of. But someone like Sterling, I think, is capable of doing what Saka does in the sense of attracting 2-3 people.
Mm.
And I think if we've got that on the left, if we've got that on the right, that's something that can be such a game changer to open up overloads and space elsewhere on the pitch. So yeah, that I'm really glad you brought up the idea about like the character of these people and their like the people behind them, not just the
I think
playing
it's the
style.
mentality, right? Like there's so much more, the psychology behind it. Like people forget how important these people are. Like even someone like a Mo El Neni, right? Maybe as fans, he wasn't someone we wanted to see playing often. But again, in the dressing room, in that environment, he was someone who was loved by the other players. It's like it's good to have a non-toxic environment, just adding to what you said. And I think with that in mind, Raheem has a massive point to prove. Like he's basically been written off by people as a washed up player, and he's only just about to turn 30. Like he should be in his prime. Like
Yeah, and that's what Uncle Mike says in the chat. Sterling looks like he has a point to prove. Like, I think sometimes as fans we do over index these things, but I agree. I found myself watching that interview thinking like, yeah, he looks like he's got that kind of fire in his eye, and I think he said it was like the perfect fit for him and stuff. And I think
he said, you're about to see the best of me.
he did, yeah. And like this is the
Yeah.
thing. I think when we've seen it with Havertz, we've seen it with less so Jorginho, but when you come from an environment that is that toxic to an environment that is so healthy and psychologically safe and tactically elite, I think it's the best environment to get the best out of anyone, to be honest. So, but you know, the one signing that I'm the most excited by is actually Merino. I think it's one where I've described this in like very poor analogies, but like the one that comes to mind is like there's two. One is like on Ultimate Team when you kind of slot in that player and all the connections and the relationships go like
Mm.
really strong.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember you said that on the
The
episode.
other is like the Thanos Avengers one with the final Infinity Stone, and it's like I know Marino's like the not the best left eight in the world, but I think in the context of our system and what we need, I think he's the most natural player for that role that we can get. That's going to unlock, sorry, the left back, left eight, and left wing relationship. And I think it's just, I look at Declan Rice and what he brings in that left eight role, and I think it's only certain game states and opposition that suit him. I look at what we have with Partey and Jorginho sometimes at the base, and I think there's only certain opposition in game states that suit them. I just think a midfield of Rice, Odegaard, and Merino, they're all in their natural habitats. Merino is the only player, I believe, in the squad that maybe Trossard, and we've seen him do it once or twice, that is capable of being a pocket player on the left. I know Odegaard can do it, but we're not going to shift him from the right eight. I don't think Declan Rice is a tight pocket player in the left eight. I think he needs acres of space to run and drive and create transitions. I think Merino is capable of doing both. I think we finally replaced what Granit Xhaka gave us in that role, but added more off the ball work, I guess, in what Merino's brought. So yeah, I'm really excited by him.
So I think we talked about Merino and Sterling a bit. Calafiori, we've not touched on as much. And again, I think just from the cameos I've seen, I feel like it's going to be hard to keep him out much longer. I'm not convinced Timber was signed to be a left back. And although like he's conveniently slotted in there both last season and this season so far, I just don't know. Like I feel like Calafiori is inevitable almost. Like there's just something about him. Like
Yeah, me too. I agree. I think he was signed as the long term and first choice left back, to be honest. I
okay.
think when I spoke about in the summer thinking we would move on from Zinchenko, it's just the evolution of seeing what Arteta opted for in the running. He
Mm.
went for that physical. People talk about four centre backs, right? That's essentially what he was doing with like Tomiyasu there sometimes Kiwi or sometimes Timber. Like I agree, I don't think Timber's been signed as a left back, but it was more Zinchenko, I think, is a very good ball progressor, but he's an attacking midfielder playing from left back, right? I think he's gone and got his actual defender. That I don't think Calafiori will be the highest volume passer, but I think he'll give us something different in the way he can carry the ball through the thirds.
Mm.
And I think that's something that I've spoken about with what's the thing we're up against every week. It's low and mid blocks, right? I think how you disrupt, especially a mid block, is carrying through. And I think that's what we'll see with Calafiori. I think he'll be integrated in that week where we've got Tottenham away, Atalanta away, and Man City away. I think it will be a combination of, like, he's not going to start Spurs or City, in my opinion, but I wouldn't be shocked if he starts Atalanta. And then who have we got after that? Maybe like Leicester at home.
I think it's like Leicester and Southampton home games, yeah.
Yeah, but he's someone that even his profile really excites me. I think he's looked a little bit overexcited when he's come on in a couple of times, but
Yes.
it's your first couple of appearances at a new club, right? So you're going to want to impress. But yeah, if he can kind of calm himself down, know when to channel that excitement, which he no doubt will under Arteta's guidance, I think he'll be a profile that gives us more aerial threat offensively and defensively, the ability to carry and disrupt mid blocks. And I think combining in different areas on the left-hand side will be really fruitful. How are you feeling about him?
Yeah, I think that kind of left-hand side, as you say, that triangle which we have on the right, which is quite well established now, of Ben White, Odegaard, and Saka. I think that was part of where Martinelli's drop in form happened. I think with Zinchenko and Xhaka before he left, like all the environment was perfect for Martinelli. And I think I spoke about this before, that I felt like he's always been one of my favorite players, but I just feel like he's not quite found himself and that confidence is gone. And he's being asked to do a lot of stuff and not what he was doing before. Before, he had Jesus switching sides, moving zones to the left so he could drift central and strike the ball. He had Xhaka making runs. He had Zinchenko there. Like, it was just a whole different atmosphere. And then last year, it's like all of that changed. And he was being asked to do so much defensive work as well and keep the width and stay far away from the box. And I just think that, like, that's going to change with this world where you got a Merino, Calafiori. I think games with Martinelli, Calafiori, and Merino, I'm really excited to see how that triangle develops.
Yeah, me too.
Now, I know there won't always be that triangle. Sometimes Sterling will play. Sometimes Timber or Zinchenko might play. But the fact that we have such versatility and ability to, change our lineup to be opposition specific, I wouldn't say we've had that in any of the prior two title challenges. We've kind of gone with the core team and, apart from injury or maybe like the Martinelli Trossard debate, there hasn't really been much else going on in terms of healthy competition.
Yeah, and that's what you nailed it earlier when you spoke about, like, we've raised the floor, but we've also we've added such tactical variability. It's crazy. Like, when everyone's fit, we can do 2 or 3 different things in the forward line. We can do 2 or 3 different things in midfield. I think we can have a combination. Like, I wish there was someone that would put together like all the different credible permutations of what the Arsenal 11 could be. I think there's so many different things we can do that would actually be a competent team and go and beat most teams still. So yeah, I think we've recruited very smartly again, and yeah, hope we just get to see everyone fully fit and us be able to flex our squad when we need it. I think just on Martinelli, like, I know the fan base is quite split on him. I think he's someone that we all know his quality, but there have been a couple of things in his game that he's needed to improve for 2-3 years that I don't think we have quite seen. I think I take into context what you said about the environment and the changing left-hand side, but little things like dribbling with your head up, like decision making and stuff. I think him being out of the limelight, I think, will actually do him a favor. And I think he's been like Saka in an Arsenal team that has gone from being like a mid-table team to one of the best in Europe, right? And Saka has grown and kind of carried that team with him. I think Martinelli, for many different reasons, has kind of been in and out of that. So I think it will do him a favor, just being out of the limelight, be able to get his confidence back up, learn from a mature player like Raheem Sterling. I think I look at Sterling and I do feel like you can get, I'm not saying he's a blend of Martinelli Trossard, but there's definitely factors in his game that I think are a blend of the two. Like, Trossard, I think, drifts really nicely into central areas to get goal scoring opportunities. Martinelli tends to take the player to the byline, and I think Sterling is someone that does both, and you'll find him like sometimes at the back post, sometimes on the penalty spot from the left wing. So yeah, I think it's a big year for Martinelli.
Is Martinelli's biggest criticism, and it's not really a criticism when you think about it the way I'm about to say it, is that he's not Bukayo Saka. I think people expect him to be exactly as unreal as Bukayo Saka is on the right wing, off the left wing, but they're different players. They have different strengths. And I think because they both came in and saved us when we were at our worst, and Smith Rowe and those guys back then, it's like we want him to kind of grow at the pace Bukayo has, But Bukayo is a 2-time now in a row Ballon d'Or nominee. Bukayo is in the
Ballon
England
d'Or. It always
leadership.
cracks me up the way you say Ballon d'Or.
Oh yeah, you say
You go with the
Ballon.
aftershave.
Yeah. Dior. Yeah. Ballon d'Or. Yeah, Ballon d'Or. Sorry, I know I always struggle with that one every year. But yeah, like Bukayo is just something else, man. Like he's a unicorn. Like he is truly, as they say, like God's child. Like I couldn't love a player more. And he's already so unbelievably good. And he's only just turned 23 yesterday. So this was just a chance to say happy birthday to him and to also
Yeah,
reiterate that
nice.
Martinelli and all players have different growth trajectories and different, ups and downs along the way. Not everyone can be Bukayo, and that shouldn't be the standard everyone's held to. Like, I just
No,
think
it's well
it's
said.
unrealistic.
Yeah, because and this is the thing. For what it's worth, I don't want him to be Bukayo Saka because I think Martinelli has got a growth trajectory where there's elements Saka can't replicate what Martinelli in his best day can. Like I think he's got that element of being a powerful outlet on the left, which Saka is powerful, but not in the sprinting transitional method that we picture with Martinelli. So I think I don't want him to be Bukayo Saka. I think he's someone that can give us something completely different that we're
Mm,
lacking. But like I said, it's more there's fundamentals and basics that I think he still needs to work on and improve. But I think he's in
100%.
the best team under the best manager to work on that. And hopefully, like I said, with him not being in the spotlight so much this season, hopefully with the amount of games we've got, we'll see him get back to his best. Do you want to touch on any of the outgoings?
That's what I was going to say. I don't think we've spoken too much about the outgoings apart from that we did good business, right? Which we've not really done very often in our history in terms of sales. We've had to terminate a lot of contracts to turn around the squad Arteta inherited to the one he has today. Interesting fact: with Nelson on loan, there is nobody left from Wenger's squad in this season's Arsenal squad.
I
It's the
saw
first
that.
time.
Yeah,
First
yeah,
time.
completely end of one chapter and start of a new one now.
So I'm just putting the timestamps in. So yeah, let's just very briefly talk about the outgoings because I'd love to take the comments in the chat as well and just shout out
Yep.
everyone and say hi afterwards. So um I'm not gonna lie, I was gutted to see Emil Smith Rowe leave. Like I was truly upset. But I think it's best for him and his career. Same for
Was
Eddie
that
Nketiah.
from an emotional perspective or from a playing perspective?
Purely emotional, nothing playing wise. I think anyone who thought that him by staying would replicate what he did a few years ago, pre injuries and surgery, was lying to themselves because to replicate that, he needs minutes and he was never going to get the minutes. Last year, he wasn't even injured. He was available for most games and he still only put up those minutes that we saw. So the manager just wouldn't play him. So it wasn't like, oh, he was injured loads last year. That's why he didn't play. He was fully fit for most of the year and on the bench and didn't play. So, with that in mind, the only way for him to recover that form and go back on his own trajectory is, I think, to go and play regular first team football and in a position that suits him. So, I think going to Fulham, being around some of the familiar faces he knows, I think that's going to really help. Um, but yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on him. Like, it was purely emotional. And I'm actually happy for him. I'm really happy for him. I'm happy for Eddie. I think one thing I want to add about the academy, because people keep saying, like, I've seen a lot of people beating Arteta with this stick about not giving academy people debut or minutes. And, like the likes of Klopp or like Pep have done. But I think when you look back historically, they've only done so once they've won the major trophy they wanted. Like, and
That's a
maybe
good point.
they,
I hadn't thought of that.
yeah, like, do you see like the likes of Rico Lewis or like Harvey Elliott? Were these guys being used in run ins to win the first title for those managers? I don't think so.
No, that's a really good point. I'd literally never made that. Yeah, I'd never made that
But
connection in
like
my
people
head.
say this, they're like, oh, like last season he was stubborn. He didn't give like Vieira enough minutes. Now we're nearly done. It's not a charity. We're trying to win a title after 20 years. And they're like, yeah, but that's why they're leaving. Look, Mario Hutchison left. Oh, look, Cheeto left. What? Do you want to give a fucking 15-year-old kid a starting lineup? He can't even have a professional contract. Like what? So I just can't get over it. Like I get it. Okay, maybe we want the youth to play more. But for me, the reason I brought this up is that I think the success of a football academy is in creating first team footballers. And that doesn't have to be at Arsenal Football Club. So if these players go on and have fruitful careers and we've made good money selling them, the academy has done its job. City and Chelsea have some of the best academies in the world football, if not in the Premier League for sure. And these guys constantly sell players. They sold someone like, like Cole Palmer. Like, I don't see no one saying, oh, because Pep didn't play him, he's such a shit manager, he sold him. Look at that, how great he's doing after. I want to see Smith Rowe do well. Smith Rowe scored a goal in a fucking friendly preseason after being sold, and already the Arteta out people were here. And I'm like, guys, like, relax. Like, this is the season. We've moved on Vieira and these guys and Smith Rowe, so Nwaneri can get the minutes. Like, we are creating the pathways, but you've got to be good enough. If once we win the thing we need to win and that pressure's gone, then yeah, maybe you see one or two more academy kids keep getting introduced every season. But you can't be like, I don't understand that you want to bench seasoned veteran international players for children and then ruin that child's career. We've seen what happens when players start playing very young and get run into the ground, and it can end very badly for many players, right? So I'm actually on board with this. I just wanted to add all that. I'm glad they all left, and I don't think we needed them for what we want to do now. And I actually think that they were some of the most successful players from Hale End because of the fact that we fetched the sums we did. And players like Eddie played the minutes they did. They scored in some important games to beat, like Man United, Chelsea. They had long runs in the team when we really needed them. They never complained. They always fought hard. And unfortunately, just the way as we've gone in the last 2-3 years, what we need next, we've grown beyond them. And so
Yeah.
I wish them farewell and good luck and great sales. But yeah, it was more emotional only.
Yeah, no, it's well said. And I think this is the thing where Bukayo Saka has set, I think, very unrealistic expectations of what people think you get in academies. Of that, how many Bukayo Sakas have there been out of Hale End? Ashley Cole?
And
Like,
and Cesc, right? Just free, and even he
yeah,
originally was from Camp Nou. So
yeah,
La
exactly. So,
Masia.
yeah, so like, and I think it's a really good point you make on like the success being that these guys go on and have first team careers elsewhere, because like even Alex Iwobi, right? I think he was someone that divided opinion. Look, he's had a very successful Premier League career, in my opinion. He went to Everton. Sure, he divided opinion there, but he was consistently playing. He's now at Fulham, consistently playing at the top flight in Premier League foot in the Premier League, and which is one of the best leagues in world football. And Fulham are a team that are they're not going to be in relegation battles. They'll be like Crystal Palace. They'll be consistent Premier League teams, and I think it's a really good point because what Chelsea and City do, less so City, but Chelsea obviously stockpile talent, right? And then just look to treat them like assets. I don't know enough about City's academy, to be honest. So I'm not going to comment. But with Arsenal, I know Haaland. Like, we build characters, we build men with values and good beliefs. And like, I think this is the thing. You look at the reaction these people get when they leave and the way they're welcomed when they go to these places, it speaks a lot to the men we're building, not just the footballers. And that's the thing I feel most proud of. Like, I look at Eddie, I fucking love Eddie, honestly. Like, forget football for a sec, but even football, I always, like, we've been doing this for what, 3 years now. I've always been higher on Eddie than the average Arsenal fan, and it's because I think he was an underrated footballer. I don't think he was good enough to be Arsenal's number 9 for where we're heading, but when we were a top 6-5-4 team, I think he was fine. I think he was traditionally a poacher, fox in the box, that developed an all-round centre-forward game that is competent for a Europa League chasing team. We just happened to surpass what that was for Arsenal, right? But he's someone that, obviously the famous clip from All or Nothing, where he basically said, "Stop whining, up your game, train harder." And I actually see a physio for one of my own injuries, and it's the same physio that treats Eddie. So obviously I get a lot of insight about him, and he invests so much in his personal development and stuff. And I've just got a lot of time for him in that sense. But it was what I was saying of like, you look at him going to Palace, and it's like he's found another community club where they've just welcomed him with open arms. Smith Rowe, I think he's gone to Fulham and immediately become like a bit of a talismanic figure there. Reece Nelson, I'm not sure how, but Reece Nelson is alone, right? So he probably won't feel the same level of finding his home as the others did. But
But did
he's
you see
again
the photo of him and Smith Rowe? The way they're hugging each other when he arrives on loan. It's like, it's a family, man. Like, Eddie cracks me up as well. Have you seen the video when on his first day at the Palace training
with
ground?
Gay.
Yeah, and he's like,
Yeah,
lock him up. Don't let them sell Gay. Don't sell him. Keep Mark. Keep Mark. And
yeah, but
it
it's like
just fits
there's
straight into that family, as you say, that family
yeah, but
feeling.
there's like I don't know how to word it, but I look at people that have come from Hale End, like an Alex Iwobi, a Bukayo Saka, Emil Smith Rowe, Eddie Nketiah, Reece Nelson, and I'd ask you what attributes in terms of like the human side that they all have in common. It's humility, in my opinion. I think they're all so humble and hardworking. And I know Alex Iwobi can be a bit funny on like social media and stuff, but I think if you get to know him on a one-to-one basis and you see his interview, they all come across as so humble. And I think that's a credit to our football club. And
They're all down to earth, every single one of them. I'm going to just quickly tell you this because this is actually based on that. I really love this. I saw it yesterday. It was a quote about Bukayo Saka. And obviously for his 23rd birthday, I just thought this was something that was really fun to talk about. So this is actually from Greg Lincoln, who was the former head of the foundation phase at Arsenal Academy. So he worked with Bukayo when Bukayo was 9 years old, right? And on The Athletic, he says, I'll send him WhatsApp messages or texts and words of encouragement. And he's no different. He's full of humility and he'll still give you as much time now as he did when he was a 9-year-old. That's the exact word that you hit on, humility.
Yeah, and it's worth saying it's a credit to Arsenal, but it's also a credit to these people's families and their parents. But like, I do think the club has a part to play in that as well. And this is where, to bring it full circle to what your point was, it's just these players, I think, are an academy success. They're not a failure because they've not made it at Arsenal. Eddie made over 100 appearances for the first team. I don't know how many appearances Smith Rowe made, but he went on to wear the iconic number 10. He came in and with Bukayo dragged the team to a level that has helped lay the foundations for what I think are going to be an incredibly successful dynasty incoming for Arsenal at the top level. Smith Rowe had a part to play in that. Eddie had a part to play in that. Nelson had a part to play in that. So, yeah, I think the academy is an incredible success. And it's what Edu said I think this was all or nothing as well. Back then, we had, if you treat players like assets, we had garbage assets that we couldn't sell. We're now in a team that is one of the best in Europe in their prime ages, competing on multiple fronts. So the assets are higher. So you can sell from a higher value compared to, like you said earlier, we were having to terminate contracts. We don't have to do that anymore. So I think all round very good selling. And I think it's more finding Edu said this in his interview on deadline day, finding the clubs that are right for the players as well. That's what I like as well. I look at every single transfer, Smith Rowe, Nketiah, Ramsdale, and it's like, yeah, I can see them making that their home. So I think it's a credit to our football club, honestly.
Absolutely. I think the human side of it is underrated. Let's take a couple of comments, as you say, in the chat.
Go for it.
Time on this. So shout out to Mike Halpin first in the chat. Morning, Bobby Love. All right, mate. Good to see you. Got you in the background while looking at spreadsheets. Surprise workout home day. I love that. Who else do we have? We have Pontus Johansson. Good to see you, buddy. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry we went live so late. Apologies. Echo was in Paris. Sterling is all we need to win the league. I truly agree. I put a joke comment in a couple of group chats, and it got the most emoji reactions I've ever had for a joke comment. So I was quite.
What was the joke comment?
I said I can't wait for Sterling to score the winner and slap Pep on his head, and for Ben White to dash a pizza at Rodri. That and then it got like 20 laughing emojis. And I was like, okay. I was like, this is maybe one of the funnier things I've said in a while. But it's just truly how I felt about the Sterling signing. I think that if we win something huge this year, he will be the one to score the goal that cements it. I just something deep inside me. When I look at the times when he was being coached, right, by Mikel Arteta, and both Pep has said this, and Sterling himself, Sane said it, Foden said it. Like all of these guys have basically said that when Arteta was the assistant coach at City, he was what got the best out of them from an attacking wise, right? Like everyone knows that he was someone who just brought out the best in these guys. So for Sterling to come, I think this is underrated, to come into an environment where he's got Zinchenko and Jesus, who he's played with. He's got Havertz and Jorginho, who he's played with. He's then got Declan Rice and Ben White Declan Rice and Saka from the England setup that he's played with. I think people, and then Mikel Arteta, who he played against and for as a coach. I think people really underestimate how quick this turnaround story is. I think I said it on the last episode that we almost went a whole summer without Arteta trying to fix someone. So this is it. He's our fixing. He's our fix. We fixed Havertz last
Arteta.
year. Yeah, Dr. Arteta's back to bring life into the team. And then we have, apparently we were offered Mudryk loan on deadline day, but we were like, absolutely not.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I did hear that actually, but I think they were trying to use that to like get rid of like a sinking asset, and like Sterling only wanted us, so thank God for that. So yeah, so Adieri Kangumba, thank you for tuning in, buddy. So I just want to touch on this. It's related to Newcastle. They say, how are you guys? I blame Darren Eagles for the poor transfer window of Newcastle. Sack Darren Eagles now out of Newcastle and bring back Amanda as CEO of Newcastle United.
Yeah, Newcastle's window is an interesting one because obviously I'm in the Planet FPL Slack channel and they've got channels for every fan group, and the Newcastle fans are very unhappy. And apparently Paul Mitchell did an interview the other day, and I was just asking their fans like, how do you feel about the window? And a lot of them were saying, yeah, not great. They didn't strengthen, but then despite the money being there, because obviously they sold Elliot Anderson to Forest to hit that PSR deadline, but then they didn't really go on to do anything
And
else.
they
But
sold Minte as well to Brighton,
forgot
right?
about that. Yeah, good
They sold
point.
like, yeah, like, people are like, oh, we need a right wing. Oh, we had one, but we sold it.
Yeah,
It's
but then
like
the flip side of that though is one of the fans was saying like, if it fixes the processes behind the scenes and it builds up some PSR headroom, then it might be looked at as like a necessary window where they've set themselves up to, we've said with Arsenal now, in the next January window, in the next summer, we might go big. I wouldn't be surprised if that's something like Newcastle. Like, are Newcastle in a position where if they strengthened this window, they would really move the needle forward? I don't think so. Whereas if they go and do that next summer, they may be able to strategize a way to go and get Champions League football in the context of where other teams are. And I also look at Arsenal, like, I know I'm doing that thing that everyone says about Liverpool fans, but it's an Arsenal channel, so I'm making it about Arsenal. But uh Man City didn't really sign anyone, right? They got Savinho, but
they're like minus 100 million net spend or something this summer.
yeah, but it's like, I don't know. I do wonder if there's an element of we were assessing what they were doing. The squads are still similar, and it's like you get to January, reassess. And because when Arteta spoke about maximizing every transfer window, that was, I think, just before PSR was becoming so prominent. I do wonder in this PSR world if you have to be a little bit more strategic. No, sorry, not strategic, more tactical, and like more like have a long-term strategy, but be able to react and go when things look like it's ready to have the highest
Like
impact
maybe
possible. And
they
maybe,
think that the center forward's available next year or the Nico Williams is available next year. So it's almost like, why blow the load now? Because then we won't be able to when the player we actually want is available, right?
yeah, so I wonder if that's the thing. It's like picking your moments for when you think have the highest impact, and maybe that is next summer for us. Maybe
There's
we
something
can go
happening.
the course this year and wait till next summer to almost surpass Man City comfortably.
There is something happening though. Brighton were the highest net spenders by a distance this summer in the Premier League. But aside from that, most of the traditional clubs, apart from Man United and Chelsea, who just spend a lot of money anyway every summer, regardless, City and Liverpool didn't change much. We changed more than they did, arguably. And then I think generally, when you look around, I feel like there's something coming that we don't know yet. I don't know if teams are
What do you
waiting to
mean?
find out. Like, I feel like there's something more at play. Like, there's this whole new stuff about like the revenue to wage cap, and UEFA are going to have some rules, and then like, PSR might evolve. I almost feel like maybe they know something we don't at the clubs, that there is something more comprehensive coming, and they're almost like making sure they're all in the best position for when that thing comes, so that if teams like say Chelsea or United get done by it or can't buy when that time comes, that they're there for all the market opportunities. But I feel like something's about to change and we just don't know about it yet. Part
Yeah,
of it
it's
is
fun.
the Man City trial, by the way. I do wonder if a lot of teams in that kind of top half of the Premier League table, if they're just kind of waiting to see the outcome.
It's funny you say that. Like, I did a podcast with Planet FPL the other day, and obviously Leicester got their PSR outcome, and they've not had points deducted, and Everton Forest fans are up in arms because they did, and we won't talk about that now. Like, go and read about it if you want. But James from Planet FPL thinks PSR is going to be scrapped, and you combine that with what you're thinking in terms of something coming. I've seen the things about the wage ratio and this and that. Like, I agree if something's coming. So I do think Arsenal, we're looking at it as like, we don't know the outcome of the Man City trial. Like, we can probably increase and improve the squad in a more optimal way in the future with more information. Right now, with this squad, do we have the capability of going and putting 88 to 92 points on the board? Probably. And I do wonder if it's just a case of get to January, reassess, get to the summer, reassess. And that's what I mean when I say play it more tactical rather than so long term strategically. So, yeah, one to keep an
Agreed.
eye
We
on.
have one last question, but just on answering your question, Ray. So Yeah, so as Clayton says, like obviously a lot of Newcastle fans are upset and they're calling for Darren Eagles to be sacked. I don't know really. I don't know the right answer to that. I don't know enough about what's been going on at Newcastle to comment. I do know that everything was put into the Mark Gahey signing, and like when it didn't happen, there was no backup. So you do have to question the strategy there, because if you were willing to spend that kind of money, like then why was there no backup target? Like I don't get it. Like so that I can understand the frustration, and having sold players to meet PSR and then not replacing them is it's a bit frustrating. But I would wait and see what's going on, because I think something is rumbling in this PSR world, or post PSR world, if it does get scrapped. Last question from Tommy Gunn, and we'll get out of here. So we saw Kieran Tierney in training.
He's in the
Like
Champions League squad.
yeah, he's also in the Champions League squad. I forgot that. He asks, will we find a home for Kieran Tierney in January? So I guess we probably would have sold him had he been not injured in the summer, right? Do you think that we've registered him and we might actually see him like play some minutes like at the end of Champions League games? Like,
What?
what do you
I
think about that?
I need to get the fixtures up in order because I can't. So what? It's Atalanta, just Champions League. It's Atalanta first, and then basically, what are the ones that are in January? Is it Shakhtar and Zagreb?
I think so.
Because they're the only two I see him getting minutes in my opinion.
And there in
Shakhtar
the
and
window, we
Zagreb.
would be trying to shift him on.
Yeah, I don't see him playing against. Like I know Inter, Sporting, and Atalanta are all 100% before the January window. There's no way he'll play in them, in my
What
opinion.
about as a winger?
Fuck it out. No, I
Like,
don't
like
think.
you don't think he might sub on as a left winger
He's.
for a
I'm
few
saying,
minutes?
is this the Gareth Bale arc everyone's trying to force?
Yeah. I don't think he's going to become a Gareth Bale, but I do remember there was those occasional like thunder strikes from him.
The
He had a
only
few
way
moments.
he'll be on the bench, by the way, because in the Champions League, your whole squad is on the bench. So I think the
Nice.
only way he gets minutes is if we're winning like 7-0. But
And then
with
and it's like
Atalanta,
let's show him out on the pitch so we find some buyers. Yeah.
yeah, but with like Atalanta, Inter, and Sporting away, and I forgot what the fourth one is before Christmas. I don't see us winning 7-0 away from home in any of them.
So yeah, I think to answer your question, Tommy, I do think we will try to move him on.
Yeah,
I,
me
I I
too.
just don't see like I feel like, especially like after his loan right last year, like I think he was already like mentally out of the club, and the injury during the Euros obviously was very unfortunate for him. But I hope we find him a long term home that's right for him, like we were saying about all the Halen kids as well. But yeah, so just in terms of a couple of thank yous as well, everyone, before we get out of here. So you guys have been amazing. There's been like 10 to 15 people live the whole show. Thank you for being here for the international break special, looking at the transfer window. There's lots of content as well that Clayton's done, some shorter form content on the new signings. Go check them out if you've missed them. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can keep up to date with what we do. We will always do a preview of the Premier League games on Fridays after the presser, and we will do a review on Sundays if the game was on Saturday, and potentially later if it was on a Sunday. But yeah, we're going to do previews and reviews of every Premier League game this week, this season. We're also going to be doing lots of these kind of specials and guest episodes and round tables and just,
Champions League
yeah,
previews,
Champions
Champions
League
League
previews.
and
True.
next week we've got one of our long-term friends, Finn, is coming on. So we've got a series called the Arsenal Archives where we interview Arsenal fans about a memorable day out they've had, and it's North London Derby week next week. So that's all you need to know about what we'll be talking about. So
I
Finn's had
love
a
that.
couple of good days out at Tottenham.
I love that. Yeah, so guys, yeah, like please do consider subscribing. As I say, like I've noticed that like more than half of our viewers every week are non-subscribers. So if you're like me, you probably think you're subscribed and you're not. This happens to me on loads of channels that I watch regularly, and months later I realize I was actually never subscribed, but I just kept clicking on the link on the homepage. So if that is you, it would mean a lot if you can support us on our journey to 300 subscribers. We're 40 short of that right now. It's our third season, and we're going to have lots more content. The thumbnail today was obviously a new upgrade of our normal thumbnails too. So we're hoping to also improve production as we go throughout season and improve things each week. And any feedback you have, just let us know. And yeah, you can obviously interact with either of us on Twitter anytime. We always love to chat to fellow Gooners about everything Arsenal related. And we're both season ticket holders. So, if you ever want to meet pre-game, post-game for a drink, have a chat, we always love to do that too. So anytime you're going to a match, let us know. Actually met up with Raja, who'd flown in from the US. So one of our kind of Arsenal friends online. And it's just so nice to meet people from all around the world when they come and they get to watch Arsenal for the first time. And, we can go through the pre-match rituals together on the way to the stadium and help you make the most of that day. So thank you, everyone. Have a lovely weekend. Enjoy the only weekend left this September without Arsenal. And start mentally preparing for the big 3 away games when we come back, because that's going to be mad. That's going to be Spurs away, Atlanta away, and Man City away. That's going to be like that for most of the season. So thank God Raheem is here, because I think he's going to win it all for us. But yeah, that's it, guys.
Well said. Cheers, everyone. Up the Arsenal.
Come on, you guys.